Hello, welcome to this session on choosing the right course in university. My name's Charlotte Barrett. I am the UK Student Recruitment Officer and I look after mature students here at the University of Leicester. So if you're over 21 and you're thinking maybe I want to go to university and you're not sure where to start, this is ideal for you. So today I'm going to go through a few things that are going to hopefully make it easier for you to decide what you want to do and where you want to go. So we're going to cover, for example, things like what courses exist in the university world, types of degrees, types of universities, and then sources of information. So where you can find all of this out to help you make your decisions. And then it's all about what you do next with it. So bear with me, it's going to be maybe 10, 15 minutes, not too long, and hopefully it'll give you a better idea of where to start. So I think the thing to bear in mind, and you probably noticed this, that there is a huge amount of choice out there when it comes to choosing a course in a university. There's more than 130 universities in the UK, and that doesn't include courses that you can study which are university level at some local FE colleges as well. The other thing is that there's so much choice out there. So even when you think, actually, you know, I want to do a particular thing, you might think, I know exactly what I want to do. You'll probably find something entirely different that you're really interested in, and you might want to bear that in mind. So doing your homework before you start can really pay off. So for example, at the University of Leicester, I would say we have some pretty straightforward degrees, but also some that you may not have heard of or even thought that you could study. So we've got the usual things like that, like English, geography, maths, law. We've got some allied health professions, so we have nursing, midwifery, but also things like operating department practice. So if you wanted to work in a theatre, as in a surgical theatre in a hospital, then that's the kind of course for you. And that is actually a 3-year course. A lot of people think that it's associated with nursing. That's an old route. So things do change and there's a lot more out there. We've also got things like American studies. Now, American studies looks at the study of America from all points of view, so political, cultural, historical, and you do actually get a chance to go and spend a year in America as part of your course. So sometimes it's not always as straightforward, and you might think, oh, actually, a lot of these I could study at college, or you might have been, when you were at school, you might have studied them. So we do have some quite straightforward courses, but also those ones which are slightly different. So do make sure you are looking at absolutely everything. Now, obviously, like I said, we are quite straightforward, fairly normal sounding courses, but out there, there are some very not obvious and sort of very different courses out there. So you can actually do courses in things like Bulgarian studies, very similar to American studies, just a different country. Aquaculture and fisheries, you've got puppetry, embroidery, all sorts of things, golf management. I think there is also a golf design course, possibly somewhere in Scotland. And if you're wondering what viticulture and oenology is, it's all about wine. So it's about growing and then brewing's probably not the right word, growing and then fermenting your own wine. So there is something different out there as well. So it could be that you've got a hobby that you've never thought about taking any further, or it could be that actually you're thinking about doing something a bit different. So do bear that in mind when you're looking around, because it could be that there is a really interesting course quite close to you. Now, degrees come in different shapes and sizes. So if you're looking for a very much sort of set career, you might be looking at a professional degree. So courses that lead to professions are often accredited, and so they're usually linked to an external body or a national body that makes sure that everything in that degree is relevant to your career later on. So for example, law is a nice obvious one. You have to have a qualifying law degree to be able to go on and study for your exams to become a solicitor or barrister. Medicine, another very obvious one. You need to make sure that you have studied all the right bits to become a medical doctor. But things like psychology, nursing, I think psychology is the one that's sort of like, oh, I didn't realise that was accredited. If you are looking at that particular path for your career, do make sure that whatever course you go on to is accredited, because sometimes you can do a law degree which isn't accredited. So like I said, do your homework. University should tell you immediately whether they are an accredited course, or if you see it pop up on something, it could be something you hadn't considered before. Vocational degrees, so these are degrees where you need a degree in that particular subject. It leads to a particular career, but not necessarily attached to any sort of accreditation. So for example, sort of media and journalism tend to have to sort of be vocational degrees. Archaeology, you can learn that on the job, but actually if you get an archaeology degree, you are more likely to be employed as an archaeologist. And it could be computer science or something along those lines. So again, you might think, actually, I've got a career in mind and I want to go down that route. And you've got a very straightforward vocational degree that you can do that will get you to your end point. A lot of the sciences, I would say, are vocational degrees. So if you wanted to work in a lab as an analytical chemist, for example, you might want to look at those chemistry degrees. And then we've got what we call our academic degrees. And I'll put here that you study it for the love of the subject. But these tend to have a broader range of careers attached at the end of them. I mean, to be honest, any degree is a stepping stone to a very different career at the end of it. But with these academic degrees, you've got a much broader aspect of, you could work almost anywhere. A lot of people, if you're thinking of going into teaching, will tend to go down the academic degree route and then do a teacher training program at the end of it. So if that's something you're interested in, whether it's primary or secondary teaching, you will need a degree to start with. So do something you love and then do your teaching qualification. So do have a look at those as well. And like I mentioned, there's careers at the end of any degree. We do have a career service that works with you throughout your course as well. And most universities will have that. So don't think, actually, oh, I don't want to go and do, say, history because I don't know what I'd do with it at the end. Actually, you've got at least 3 years of working with that career service about what you want to do with it at the end of it. So they're the courses that are out there. You've also got different types of university. Now, obviously, I work at the University of Leicester, so I'm going to speak about them as well. But there are different types of university out there, and you might be limited by where you live as to how far you can travel. So some of the differences between universities can be as simple as course content. Now, I've mentioned that we have quite straightforward courses, but at the same time, if you looked at a history degree with us and compared it to a history degree at another university, you might find that you've got different bits of history that you're studying. So if you're particularly interested in something within your subject, you want to go and make sure that it's actually studied at the university you're interested in. So that's something to really bear in mind, because it could make a massive difference to you. Because say if you love Renaissance history and yet you're only going to study the World Wars, for example, it's not going to be the history degree you wanted at that point. Now, universities, some are based in cities, some are campus-based, some are in the middle of the countryside with beautiful rolling countryside. So you want to think about what kind of university you might want to go to as well. So we are campus-based at the University of Leicester. We have 2 main campuses, and you can get across our larger campus in about 15 minutes. We're not quite city-based. We're 15 minutes away from the city, and you've got the best of both worlds with that. So you want to think, do you want somewhere where you can almost get lost, or do you want somewhere where it's easy to get to? What's it going to be like? And I've put commute on there as like a question mark. Are you staying at home? Is it commutable? What's the parking like? What's the transport like? Something else that you want to make sure that you're taking into account. And you want to get the feel of the place too. So I would highly recommend visiting any university you're interested in going to. Even if you haven't put an application in yet, just go to the university and go and have a look around. The community feel is really important, because you're going to be there for 3 or 4 years studying with all sorts of different people from different places, and you want to feel that you belong in that place. So get a feel for it. If you can, go to open days. I know a lot of those have been online recently. Chat to current students and just get that idea about what is it like being a student at that university. Because community is going to be really key to really help you get through your course, because it's not just about that studying. So things to think about. So if you're starting to narrow down your choices, maybe you've chosen which course you want to do, you've looked at that content and gone, actually, yeah, that's for me. You want to sort of put all these together and make a big list about sort of what's going to be best for you. Now, we've looked at courses. Is it the right type? Can you achieve the entry requirements? Now, sometimes universities can be very flexible on their entry requirements, and sometimes they're going to ask for something very specific. So have a look at that and then look at considering your options. If you don't have the right qualifications, don't panic. Go and have a chat with your local FE college, because they might be able to offer you an access to HE diploma, which will cover all of that. So there's lots of different routes in, but it could be that you don't even need qualifications to get into university. They can look at your work experience as well. So do bear that in mind. I put location, 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 because again, it could be that you've got a university that's relatively close to you, but it's quite difficult to get to. So you really want to make sure that you've taken into account sort of like how you're going to manage on a day-to-day basis, sort of traveling in and going sort of spending time on campus. Other things to look out for are things like student support. So if you need extra support, what have they got in place for you? What's the student union like? So what are the facilities there? You need childcare. Do they have a nursery, or are they aware of like local nurseries? All sorts of things. If you like going to the gym, go and have a look at the gym as well. And sports clubs, societies, and that social side too. Or it could be, what kind of links do they have with industry? So there's lots and lots of things that you might want to take into account on there. And do have a look at scholarships. Now, there is another talk about student finance. So if you're coming into this thinking this is my first degree, you will qualify for student finance if you are a UK resident. You can tune in to one of the other talks and find out more about that. But universities also have scholarships. So how much money are they going to give you to study with them? So do have a look. And I've put down additional opportunities. So yeah, is there volunteering you can do while you're studying? What other things to get involved in? So where do you find all this information? Now, I've briefly mentioned open days, but there are quite a few places that you can go to have a look. Now, you can order a prospectus from a lot of universities. So they'll send you through essentially a book full of all of their courses and lots of information. I would use these with a pinch of salt as well, because they are essentially their selling tools, but it will have lots and lots of useful information in there for you. And that's the same with the university and college websites. Now, you can look externally. There are league tables that will rank not only the university, but the courses within that university as well. So you could have a look at league tables if that's important to you. But the other places to look at are things like social media and chat rooms, because when it comes down to it, if you've got people who are chatting about the university, there's the student room, for example, they'll be able to share information, and sometimes you can chat to the current students. So we have a facility on our website called UniBuddy. And UniBuddy will link you up with a current student who's possibly doing the course that you're interested in. So then you can ask them all sorts of questions like, how many hours a week is it? How do they get on with say, commuting? Or do they live in halls of residence? And you can quiz them and find out more about it. Now, I've put down UCAS here as well. UCAS, which I shall explain on the next slide. Here we go. So UCAS is the Universities and Colleges Admission Service, known as UCAS by almost everybody who's involved in it. Every application for university will go through the UCAS process. So on this application, if you're at college, they'll help you with this process. But if you're external, then you do need to fill it in yourself. But the application basically covers everything that we need to know when you're applying. And you can apply for up to 5 courses and universities at the same time. So you could pick 5 different courses from 5 different universities, or 2 or 3 courses from 2 or 3 different universities. So the application includes your personal information, your 5 choices, a personal statement and a reference. It's similar to a job application, except with the personal statement, we want to know more about who you are and why you want to study. So you're not so much selling yourself to us for sort of like what skills you've got, but really what your interests are and how you've got to this point. There's lots of information on UCAS on their website, www.ucas.com. If you are looking at applying to university in the summer, so say, for example, it is July now, and if you're thinking, actually, I might want to start in September this year, you can apply direct to the universities. But if you're looking at doing it for 2022, then you need to go through your UCAS application. If you have any further questions on this at all, then you can get in touch with me. So I'm available on email or on our UniBuddy. So either of those ways, you can just basically let me know if you've got any questions or want any support with your university choices. Thanks for joining me.